Warm greetings, our dear viewers. Welcome to this episode of Youth Roundtable with me, your host for today, Okot Ola. Today, we are discussing a very tumultuous issue. It has been a rocky week in our country where we witnessed a lot of violence and a lot of scandals around gun violence within the city of Kampala itself, starting with the murder of uh, a minister of labor and followed by the shooting of one of the top vloggers in the city, followed by an action in Aguero where we had the state security unraveling particular actors that were found to be holding explosives. When such issues come up, the youth and our future is question. Our future as the youth is in question, and therefore it is important that the youth of this country come together to discuss some of these issues. As we all know, we share a future together, and we hope for the best for our country. Today, to discuss the state of security in Uganda, is Mr. Ginyera, the JRC of Makerere Law School. You're most welcome, and we look forward to your insights. We also have Lenia Charity, a powerful female politician at Makerere University Business School, currently serving as the vice president. You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. We have had a very rocky week, in terms of security within the city. And normally when such things happen, it really shakes us to the core. None of us loves violence, and we all know that one of the non-derogable rights is non-torture. Do no harm to the body. It's an inherent right that we all abhor as human beings. We saw two different shootings of a different character. One, the death of a minister of labor by his own, but the second, the shooting of a popular blogger, commonly known as Jaja Ichuli. And I think that is more of the matter in issue today. We also had the unraveling of improvised explosive devices by security forces 2 days ago in Aguero. And all of these things come to the mind and, inflict some sort of fear into the population. As a youthful leader and someone who is looking forward to being in this country for a long time, you have a big stake in security issues. What were your reflections in the last 1 week? I'll start with you, Mr. Ginyera.
Thank you, Ola. Like you noted, I'm Ginyera George.
Yes.
Orochi. I'm a law student at law school. I'm also serving as the current KRC, 89th KRC of law school.
Yeah.
In the same vein, I would like to express the same fear that many have expressed in the past 1 week. It's been, I think, 2 weeks or so that we have expressed two very big scares.
Yeah.
Yes, in as regards to gun violence. Notably, a state minister was killed by his bodyguard.
Yeah.
I think a week back in China, and most recently, a vlogger. I fight hard to differentiate between blog and vulgar. Maybe
Yeah.
you'll elaborate later on.
Yeah.
But we have experienced that, and it speaks to what is happening globally, really. To put that in context, our state of security, because I, for one, believe that Uganda doesn't act in a vacuum. We are part of a very big global village that is also experiencing similar challenges.
Yeah.
I think Charity and you will believe with me that the world as it is right now is experiencing the greatest insecurity that we've seen in quite some time. We're having conflicts from corner to corner of the world.
Yeah, true.
We have in Europe, we have the Russia-Ukraine war. In Sudan here, our neighbors. In Ethiopia, the Tigray conflict that seemingly has ended, though I've had reports of the Amhara colleagues rebelling against the central government. From the foregoing, you could note that the world as it is right now is not at ease. And since Uganda is party to the world, we experience the same things. I believe part of that because we have spillover effects that are contributing to what is happening right now. In Uganda's context, I want to believe that there's a lot that has been going on even before that has happened in this 1 week. The Jaja Ichuli and the minister Ngola, there have been quite similar scenarios that have been happening. most recently, we started, I think, with not most recently, but recently in as regards to gun violence, a minister, the state minister of transport and works, the General Katumba, was
Yeah.
attacked, though it was an attempted attack. He didn't. The daughter was the one who faced the wrath of the gun.
Yeah.
And similar scenarios have been happening. I was a student of economics in my A level, and one of the key aspects of development was that of what? Of security. And recurringly, we used to mention that favorable political climate is one of the reasons as to why investors come. And as young people, I think the future of our nation actually depends that on security. And I've been pulled to think that our current state of security is not that is favorable. It seemingly shows a general trend that things are not getting better. Actually, things are only getting worse, worse, and worse. So, my reflection for the whole week represents an unfolding events that are leading us to a state where I think there's no turning back in actual sense. I was sharing with a friend, a colleague just of recent, contrasting the current situation in Sudan and that is happening in Uganda.
Yeah.
Because from past stories, we've seen that whatever happens in those countries, and we're not far away from those countries, seemingly again has a spillover effect on what happens to us. You've had the crisis in Libya in 2011 when Muammar Gaddafi was overthrown. When he was overthrown, immediately after that conflict, you had insurgents breaking out in almost the whole part of the Sahel region, in Mauritania, in Mali, in Chad, and everywhere. So we must be keen to what's happening abroad and contrast it in relation to what's happening. Our neighbors here, the DRC, have been thousands of people are running into Uganda to seek refuge. But now, ironically, very many Ugandans are feeling insecure in our country. There's been a joke that has been running on Twitter that if you stay in Chanja these days, because most of these things are actually happening in that place. I don't want to connect any dots or anything, but most of them are happening there. And to wrap it up, there's a general trend of insecurity in Uganda that has been evolving over time. And the NRM government has been, from time immemorial, one of its key aspects, its achievements has been that of security. You would pin them on anything but security, they would boast on it. But seemingly, I don't know whether they're losing touch with that. We're yet to see.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much for those reflections. And just to clarify for our viewers, vlogger is an English corruption of the word blogger.
Okay.
But alludes more to video content. Yeah, thank you very much for your reflections. And it also makes me reminiscent when we talk about the wider context, given that there were times when we were actually refugees in Sudan and in Congo after you're from West Nile, after the ousting of Amin. We were refugees there. We were refugees in Sudan. So sometimes you don't see things coming.
True.
But they actually happen. Yeah, so thank you very much. And over to you, Honorable Lenia. It has been a rocky week in our city.
I know.
How was, as a citizen of this city, by the word citizen comes from city and not state. So as a citizen of this city, what were your reflections?
Okay. Ola calls it a rocky week. I would say it has been tense, terrifying to most of us. And if anybody has been there and they're really concerned, let me say a concerned youth, because I mean, it's our responsibility as youth right now to get concerned about the affairs in our country. And it's unfortunate that majority of us are still, lagging. But I'm happy that this is here to make sure that we need to be part of some of these things that happen in our country. So yeah, once again, I'm Linnea Charity Kevin. I'm at Makerere University Business School. I do procurement and supply chain in my second year, and a vice guild president where I am. And this week has been a whole, we do not understand week for most of us. I do not understand week for most of the people around me, because we've heard of Ngola Charles, right? Honorable Ngola Charles. We saw his death. It was abrupt, and the most funny bit about it is people are actually not sure. Others are saying it's the bodyguard, and then you hear something else when it comes up with investigations, and you're like, but we're not really sure if it's the bodyguard. And then the bodyguard shoots himself. You know, we've been following up those stories, and each and every day a new story does come up. And then he has not paid the bodyguard. So many things about that. And then when you go to the Jaji Chuli, our famous blogger, most of the, in simple terms, vlogger, the blogger, most people know him as the great TikToker. We've seen how he has been very assertive on social media. We've seen how he has been very open on social media. So most of the things that we've been following up, some people say, is it because he was too open or he was very assertive, especially when it comes to country affairs, and he hits out on those points so hard? Could that be the cause of his death? So many things. Has it been speech? Because I think he had a lot of may his soul rest in peace. There's so much speech hate around him. So could it have been that? But still, I mean, it's in Uganda, people feel like they have a right to say what they can, But still, it has been very hard for us. And to me, yes, the government is always talking about security. This security we've been trying to, but you even notice, not even this year, even last year, we've had scenarios of death cases, of assassinations, whether the person has not been a politician, whether the person is not known. We've had issues of people being kidnapped in the country, people getting lost just like that, And it is absurd that at times I feel like we just tend to look at these issues and they reach a point and they slide off. They slide off our hands just like that. People do not get to follow them up so well. And unfortunately, if we do not take this serious, then it's going to keep recurring most of the time. So the state we're in, the security state we're in the country is very unfavorable, just like my colleague said. And we as youth, we are the future leaders of the country. You're right. So it is very important for us. It's very imperative that we take this too seriously. And I'm not blaming the government. I will not blame the government, but still, I feel like if they have been trying their best to improve on the security, then they need to do much more better. Like they really, really need to look up to these issues, because they investigate. And if you've noticed from the very past, investigations stop on the way. Feedback is not given to the public. The community doesn't get to know what next, And the next time they get serious is when another death comes up, or another something critical, another critical assassination happens in the country. That's when they get serious. That's when we hear from the spokesperson police. That's when you see them come up again, which is so sad and unfortunate. So even if it's happening, even if it's a global thing, we as a country need to find a unique spot on how to handle security issues.
Yeah, thank you very much for those insights. And my brother, you noticed yesterday the president, in reaction to the whole topic, actually distanced himself from the culture of assassination as a political solution. However, it is a general belief within the society that it is a political bullet. Given the very nature of Jaja Ichuli's monologues, may his soul rest in peace. Do you think these assassinations could be politically motivated?
And maybe, Ola, if you could permit me before I could answer that.
Yeah.
There's a general public opinion. You see, most of these deaths, the notable ones, when they occur, they're the ones that take up the space. But underlyingly, there's a lot of actual insecurity
that is taking
that
place.
May not necessarily be a gun, but there are very many people that are hijacked on roads these days. People are being bashed by stones here and there. People are being attacked by pangas. But because maybe they don't gather the same clout at Jaja Ichuli's assassination or Minister Ngola's assassination, we may sideline them. But there's an inherent high level of insecurity in the country as in regards to that. Very many house break-ins, very many murders going on here and there. So we must also be able to examine that. Because
but again, just aligning with the question is that a lot of like like you've said, there's a spectrum of violent culture, and still she's from NUP. They've always come out on their social media to say this person has been kidnapped for this reason, political reasons, largely.
Yeah.
So by extension, could some of these assassinations also be politically motivated, or is it something that maybe could come from it could be any other reason? You know.
I think for the past two that we have had, really, Minister Ngola's murder, I don't know whether to call it an assassination or a murder. For that to examine it, because the story around it is quite tricky and intriguing to understand, because they would say, as the bodyguard was leaving the crime scene, he was saying this and this and that. So very many people push his death to maybe the treatment of his employees or of sorts. Then when you try to investigate it further, you see that the bodyguard, before he was given to Honorable Minister, was first the bodyguard of Mike Mukula. He worked there. They also noticed some indiscipline cases related to him. Then he was taken for training. Then after he was posted with the Kellamilla. So personally, I wouldn't want to call that a political murder, in my opinion. Then for Judge Ichuli's case, I've interacted now. Yesterday on Twitter, I was moving around. There's been a quote that has been moving off there a lot, that in Uganda there's a guaranteed freedom of expression, but freedom after expression may not be guaranteed.
Yeah, which is a means.
Which is a means famous quote. Yeah. So it's been moving around, and it speaks to what's happening right now. Like Charity here noted, it surely, I don't know which side you fell on, and I've had problems with that, because in maybe our local dialect they would say that abada kuba volume, or he was beating on both sides. So it was a critique of everyone in every sense. So saying maybe that it was a political murder, but
political bullet.
I find it hard to digest it that way. But Ola, I would like us to appreciate the fact that an assassination in every sense using a gun is something highly sophisticated. So it wouldn't take an ordinary Guinea or ordinary Charity here from Moobs, or our dear moderator here, to hold a gun and kill someone. So it's something that requires a high level of because I think to even fathom the thought of killing someone, an assassination, the police first noted that the gun that was used was a submarine. I think later they corrected it to a pistol. So we're still at
investigation.
We're still in
maybe
the
just to make rephrase a bit. Of course, it could be a vendetta of any type. For those who watched old Italian movies, you know, a vendetta. It could be a vendetta of any kind. However, there are two things here. The president says, this is not my culture, this is not my type of politics. But then the nature of the murders, all the way from Kawesi to Chigundu to currently Jaja Chuli, as you say, appear to be pretty sophisticated operations. There have been claims that, and the president in the previous State of Nation Address on Security stated that perhaps the security forces have been infiltrated. So is there a possibility that there is an alternative chain of command? And is it being nurtured, or is it something out of order? Yeah.
I think we're reading, because yesterday the president released a statement on Jaja Ichuli's death and clearly distanced himself and said this is not how the NRM operate. I would like to draw you back. I think it was 5 years back, after the Arua by-election.
Yeah.
When Bobby Wine, I think he lost the driver. After that, the president was somewhere and he noted that my boys, I don't know that you saw that the interview, it was an interview or something like that. He said, my boys beat the Nuke principle properly, in quotes, properly. So my assertion is, because he said they beat him properly, I don't know what beating properly means.
maybe nice, softly.
Softly, maybe to suggest softly, but that speaks to what is what he produced yesterday, and him saying that it's not the way they operate doesn't necessarily mean that it's really true.
That is what he's supposed to say as a
Yeah,
president
as a
in a
president,
country. I
maybe,
mean,
yes.
to assure the public and to make sure that we have no doubts, but we do not know what happens behind the curtains, right? Because I mean, if you've been following all these assassinations, it's either these people said something or there's something that they did that is connected to a bit of politics and politics in the country.
True.
And the following day, you find they're either dead or they're, you know, so there has always been that connection. If we try so well to connect those dots, find that something is there. But as a president in the country, I mean, that is what you're supposed to tell us, the people.
So
you know,
it doesn't necessarily reflect the truth.
It doesn't necessarily reflect. How are we supposed to believe what you've told us without prior evidence? Though he tried to elaborate for us a bit of evidence, but that's still not enough to justify the death of these people.
All right, and then over to you. We had the violent assassination of Kawesi that led to a lot of security. I believe the president visited the scene, and there was also a briefing. But it also led to a lot of technological changes. I think that's the assassination that eventually led to the cameras being placed all over the city.
Or on roads.
And we saw, I think there was also a rule around thumbprints for weapons. Later, there was an suggestion, though it hasn't yet materialized. I believe it's coming soon, to do with tracking all cars.
Number plates.
So, yeah, there are some of these changes that have been made. We saw Lokech very vividly using it also to investigate Katumba's attempted assassination. But it appears that from most of these high-level assassinations that we don't really see convictions. We don't really see an end to it.
Exactly.
Is there a weakness within on the investigative side of things? Is it a technical weakness or is it lack of political will?
The sad bit about our country, I do not know whether it's I don't know whether it's a trait in us Ugandans, but we only get serious once something has happened at that particular time. So you see how Kawesi's death caused, you know, it tensed the whole nation. So that is why everybody had to come up, and then we are bringing this, we are trying to introduce this. But if you're to move on all the roads today in Uganda, who follows up those cameras behind the scenes, right? Because I believe that there are supposed to be people operating behind those cameras. But trust me, if there's an accident that happened or some time back, and you followed up, you'd find that they're not even bothered. You get? So leaving alone the fact that it might be political, that's why at times they don't follow up so much, because there's also that bit. They try to deceive the nation around and they keep it at that. But there is also our responsibility. Like, to me, I always believe that everything comes back to us, even when it means security in the country. Because yes, we have people who are supposed to be there to protect us. That can be the law, that can be the security officers, but how are you very certain that they are bothered? Because even when you say they are tracking, all those tracking devices, right now in 2023, I don't think it is very efficient. They are not using it that much. Except now that we've had another death case. That is when they're going to start doing what? Reviving it. Have you noticed? And that is exactly what they're going to do. And after some time, when all this is calm and done, we're going to go back and resume to the very first Uganda we were in. So I think that is the weakness that we have. But then if they say they're going to implement any security measures, then let it be done and let it continue. Let it be consistent. It should not only come when something critical has happened in the country. That's when we are all shaken and we want to try to do something. That is the problem with Ugandans. And that is what I've noticed severally. So now that Judge Chudi has died, now that Angola has passed on, may their souls all rest in peace, you're going to find that this is when the country is again shaken. This is when the security system is now back on ground. And they're like, okay, we're doing this. How are we supposed to do it back again? Do we need to revive this? You know, that's when, but when everything is calm, they are equally also calm, which is very wrong. Because just like the way he said, there are very many things that are happening all over the country. People are being killed every time.
It's not just the elite.
It's not just the elite, but simply because the elite are the known, of course, it's their deaths that are taken more seriously. But deep down, people are dying every day. Deep down, people are being robbed on a daily. I live in a community where students literally rob each other on a daily basis.
True.
You know, and you do not know, you find they have beaten this one, but such things are not taken. So the whole country is literally insecure.
Yeah, that's an interesting analogy. But then someone could argue that even the police are stuck, because we have seen the state of, for example, how the state of police welfare, in terms of general welfare of the police and all. Do you think that could be part of the challenges with the efficiency around security?
Anyway.
Do you think the police has the capacity in general, on a welfare side, but also technically, to be able to execute what you're trying to ask for?
Yeah, I think I would say maybe the government has tried, but not really that much to try to push. If you've seen the police officers keep throwing tantrums here and then all the time. They may not come publicly to do it, but they always have so many complaints. At times it's about less pay, at times it's about the way they are treated, at times. So I think the people who provide security in the country need to be taken seriously. If you've noticed, the UPDF in the country is taken more seriously than the police officers. I do not know whether they fall under the same category, but I've always realized that it's most of the times it's the police on ground. UPDF comes in when it is something very critical and very serious. I think that's how every Ugandan usually sees it. Every time they say a UPDF person come through, they know that this must be a very urgent matter. And you'll notice that the same way they might be in the same category of security, but the way they are treated is a bit different. Yes. So maybe the same way doctors are taken prior in the country. Even people who provide security need to be considered priority in the country. If there's something they have asked for to be able to help us and maybe protect us, I think government needs to come in and provide that. Not necessarily how they are treated, but whatever they need to be able to provide that security. At least I've seen deployments on most of the highways, on roads. You've seen that?
Yeah.
Yes, and I believe that by the time they are deployed there, those people
are the deployments military or police?
At times it's mixed.
Okay.
The ones I've seen are mostly police, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen less of the UPDF being deployed on roads. It's always traffic officers, basically on the highways. And you even had some of these traffic officers being knocked. There's a recent accident that happened where a traffic officer lost his own life in the accident. You know, I think he was trying to stop because he saw this truck driver come through. So some of these people are usually affected too. So I feel like if they're in the security sector, then the security sector needs to be taken seriously in the country. Very, very seriously. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. Kinyera. Do you think our police, which is actually mandated with this, the job of security, at least to do with civilians, has the capacity, both at the welfare and technical level, to be able to conclusively deal with issues like the assassinations we see in town?
Like earlier noted in your brief comment, I think, and Charity has also compounded on that the police is really, really underfunded, in all honesty. At least that is what is portrayed on the public. Ab initio, you can see that is it. I remember reading about some story where I think when the retired General Katumba Wamala was IGP, he tried to run within the public a campaign to buy police patrol cars, though it was, I don't think it was taken up by the government. But that speaks to the core, because key to key to what the police should do is intelligence. Some of these things actually in some countries cannot happen because they're spotted before
they happen. Yeah.
But that's all that all comes through because of funding. And Cherry, you interestingly noted that this with the death of the late Kawesi, they came in and put cameras on the roads. But even at times, these cameras are selective on how they work. I remember during the 2021 elections, there was an NUP person who was knocked. So they went to police and said, "There's actually a camera there." They said the camera was off for some reason. But that was just something for a light moment.
Yeah.
But that speaks to the core, I think, that maybe the police is impoverished to even do some of these tasks that they do.
Yeah.
In many instances, you're calling the police, you're telling them that I'm here, this and this is happening, but they tell you that they have no fuel. Very many MPs have noted that in their constituencies, when they go to visit their electorate, when they pass by the police station, they're actually even forced to chip in something to service the police patrols that are on the village. So that speaks to that. So that level of, I don't want to call it unseriousness, but that level of inefficiency, not even on their part really, but on the side of government. And like Charity noted, the government is doing, and we must appreciate, but they should do more. They should be able to do more. And that's that arm of government, that security arm of government, because security is key to everything.
Yeah.
All establishments. If there's no security, nothing can move on as it should move on. And countries that we think have made it speak to that security to the extent that I don't know whether Ola is well conversant with a gentleman called Matthias Semanda. He's well.
I've seen him on Twitter.
Yeah, he's known with issues to do with diplomacy. One time we were sharing in group, and he noted that some things that happen in Uganda and which are not known by our intelligence may be known by the CIA in the US.
Yeah.
So some of the things that happen.
I mean, remember we were warned about the bombings.
Actually, by Britain. Is it? Yes, we were warned about, but and the police admitted produced a statement on that. Yeah. But the Britons, wherever they are, had known that this was going to happen. So I think we must find a way of reinvigorating our intelligence systems, fund them better. And I've had a genuine problem with the over militarization of the police itself. Yeah. As I was coming from Makere, actually, met very, very, I don't know, there were planned protests today or yesterday. And like Charity noted, most of these things, I think our system as Ugandans, even our leaders were where we come in the moment. We can't do anything prior, but we come in the moment. So when there's a planned protest, we find police all over the roads. But when the protest maybe comes down, there's no one there. But we need those people there. Very many people talked about LDUs. I remember during lockdown, they were killing people here and there. But some people are crediting them because when LDUs came, actually, there was at least some sort of or semblance of peace. But we must do more in as regards to our intelligence and police, because I believe there's still much to be done in that regard.
Yeah, and just on the issue you talk about, which is militarization of police, we've seen a debate against, for example, on two levels. One, the military infiltration of the police itself. That is, for example, having the deputy IGP being from the army and all these things. But also on another level, the complete takeover of certain police roles by military arms like CMI.
True.
But someone could also justify that, for example, in the case of assassinations, that we see a nexus, for example, when we had we see a nexus with some elements, for example, ADF, and some of these are national security issues, and therefore the army needs to. Do you think that then justifies the militarization of police?
Of police. The militarization has been justified by our good president, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, that why at times it brings in this personnel from the military is because personally maybe he thinks they're more efficient than his colleagues. Yeah. Because I remember the first time they brought those people was after Kaihura's time, was it? But even I think because General Katumba was IGP at some time, so it flows back as far as that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's been a general trend that once you put military personnel in some of these spaces, and it's not even actually in police only, you have the whole Ministry of Internal Affairs, from General Kaindo Tafire to General David Mohozi, to even, I think the PS is also from the military.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure, but I think it's from the military. So even it speaks to
Minister of Works.
Minister of Works. Even right now, there's a State House unit on health. I remember during those COVID briefings, there was a full general who was, not a full general, I think a brigadier general. So there's been a complete overhaul of some of these positions to put them into military heads, maybe with the thinking that these people are more key to what they do. But even that has a downside or a bad effect. Because when we've seen these governments, that most of them, and I think the state does this in a way of rewarding, because the army is key to the stability in the country, really. But the downside is, in most of the governments that have been toppled or gone, whenever you put the military in such positions, at times, for the scenario in Mali, maybe they may feel entitled to the extent that if this current government is to go at some point, these people may think that they also have a place in the governance of what?
Of the
country. Because when you look at a scenario like Mali, Kano Assimi Goïta first overthrew the government. Then there was consensus between ECOWAS and Mali, and there was a civilian leader that was put. Kano Assimi Goïta was vice president.
Yeah.
There were conflicts. The president then appointed ministers without the consent of the vice president, which led to a subsequent coup in the same year. Now, as we speak, there's a military leadership in Mali. Now, as we speak, there's a military leadership in Chad. Now, as we speak, there's a military leadership in Guinea-Bissau and Kano Mamadi Doumbouya. So
I saw them hosting a sort of dinner
in their honor. Actually, I saw President Kagame recently flew to Guinea-Bissau. But the downside of that is of over-militarizing these issues. Because as Uganda, I think we're even blessed to a certain extent, Ola. We have a lot of benchmarks to learn from. I don't know how our leaders are, but there's just a lot that is going on that you can see that if we do this, this is the repercussion. If we do that, this is the repercussion. And I feel insecure personally, Ola, because I don't know whether our good leaders really have us in mind. Look at Sudan, honestly. Over 300 people died in 5 days. 5 days, just because of a disconnect between two military leaders.
Who have been working together.
One has been the head of the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, since 2013. This one, they've been working jointly, but because of insights amongst those two people, two military
and I think
leaders,
they're both convicts as well of indicts
of with Bashir. Yes. So whenever we give these colleagues power, these military men, I think there's a downside, because you're taking away power from the civilians too. And in the end, these are the people with those mass-traded weapons that we... And I don't know how it will end. I pray it's a different story for us, but we should further interrogate that thing of that point of militarization of this civil society. We should further in detail, because we have a lot to learn from.
True. And I think you speak very well about that issue, because the police is basically the civilian cushion between the security and the civilian population. And just someone could also argue that like we all do in chaos, you retreat to your default means. And so the president perhaps we have seen this a lot with the anti-corruption. So maybe he's also retreating to his default, and perhaps we all have our default. Guinea, perhaps if you're attacked, you retreat to the law. We don't know. So, Linear, just before we conclude with the first part, I want us to leave this polarizing issue. But before that, we have seen the state, perhaps, and you're from the opposition side of things. But is there anything to credit the government about? We saw Lokech effectively dealing with some of the people. My brother would argue presumption of innocence, but we saw Lokech effectively dealing with some of the attempted. I mean, the people accused of murdering General Katumba Wamala, or attempting to murder him, assassinate.
Yes.
We also saw the Chidawalime group. We don't know what happened, but has subsided. We saw the Bitaimbwa has subsided. The bombings that were happening very frequently after the president promised they would stop, and the Operation Shuja, we have also seen them stop. And yesterday we saw police busting, like he said, in developed countries we anticipate, but we saw an element of that with the police busting persons with improvised explosives. So is there anything to really credit the government about in terms of it's a net negative?
All I mean, as the government, it's their responsibility to make sure that the citizens feel safe in their own country. So if you asked me to credit the government on what they actually supposed to do, on what they are supposed to do, as you know, they know that this is their obligation, then I do not know why I would really extremely credit them on their obligation.
Oh
yes, no, I'm not supposed to be doing that. I'm not supposed to be crediting them on their own obligation, you know, because yes, they might have. We've seen the Chijambia guys. I think I've not heard of them. Now there is, after a few people were taken to court, and but you know the problem is they do not give the society feedback. They do not give Ugandans feedback. It literally stops there. If I'm a Ugandan today and I asked, in the native language, you know, but of course, yes, that can be a bit of credit, you know, or maybe the government must have done something. They must have looked into that issue. That is why it did what? It stopped. Yes, we looked at the explosives. We would really want to give the government credit for whatever that they're doing, but we also need to let them know that this is it's their obligation to protect the country. Just like in any of the countries, if something of this sort happened, you would see the intensity in security, and you as a citizen would personally feel it. You know. But right now, I move around, I'm a Ugandan, and I'm not really feeling the intensity in security at any point. But I believe that if it was some other country, the intensity, even you as a citizen, you would know that something has gone wrong somewhere. That is why the country, the government really tries to show the citizens that, you know what, we are giving it our best if it is when it comes to your what? To your security. So to me, mine is a calm one. To everyone out there, yes, this is an obligation for the government to protect its people, and they need to do more of it. And even if we were to credit them, we needed to credit them at a point of, you know, in a period of, if for example we moved in a period of 6 months in a year, and we know that insecurity in the country has now reduced a bit, then there you would give credit. But everywhere you go in the country, there has, in a day, at least something must have happened when it comes to insecurity. At least in a day, you know, now which if I'm to count, in other countries in a day, you do not hear any form of insecurity anywhere. Because I mean, in all the parts, there is at least some form of security put up. I'm not saying this because I'm opposition, because obviously definitely she's saying this because she's, but let's be very realistic here. You know, yes, government has tried when it comes to security. I will not deny that, because even us as people, we need to be security conscious. Because at the end of the day, the government is not going to come and protect where you sleep. They're not going to come and look for you. They're not, you know, exactly. We need to be vigilant. We need to be security conscious. That what time do you move? How do you protect yourself? How do you, you know? So at the end of the day, yes, it still comes back to us. But then, to me, I am not yet really satisfied. I feel like they still have a lot to do when it comes to our security. Just like the way he said, police is underly funded, and yet they would do most of these things. The military coming up to take over the police is a bit wrong, because there's too much entitlement. You're going to find that the police is put down. What they're supposed to be doing, they're not going to be able to do it, because UPDF has done what? Has come in. And these people, I think they do not have similar trainings. The same way they train a UPDF person, they are totally aggressive. I think I've seen one of their trainings before in Masindi. I've been to Masindi. Let's not go there. I've been to Masindi before, and I've been to their training grounds, and for the both of them. So it's very different. The way you train a police person is quite different from the way you train UPDF. So there's too much entitlement that comes in. So you find that the police is unable to do what they're supposed to be doing in the country, because they're the ones who are supposed to be all over the place, scattered. But at the end of the day, you find them encrypted, and they're not able to perform their duties. So that bit of military coming in to take over police might not work out so well. Maybe it's favoring the president, not the citizens at some point. Yes. Yeah. So to me, I feel like security needs to we still have a lot to do when it comes to security of the country. Just like the way he said, we have a lot of people to benchmark from. Though mine is like, let them benchmark from a positive side of it. What are they doing to maintain security in their country? That is exactly what Uganda should pick a leaf from that. They may not have the adequate finances, but they can try their very best to put up something at least. Yeah. Because I'm very worried. By the time we come to the end of 2023, we might have so many countless deaths, God forbid. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And when you speak of the state shouldn't be thanked for what they do, you remind me of a football team in my village that doesn't pay players when they lose. Doesn't pay you when you lose. If you miss a penalty, you're not paid.
But that's a motivation.
Yeah. So
to every player.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to the at the end of the first segment. We will continue after a short break. Dear viewers, stay with us. We will be discussing wider issues, the global nexus, the overall political culture, and several other issues with my esteemed colleagues, Mr. Ginyera and Honorable Lenia over here. Thank you very much for your insights. Stay with us here on Youth Roundtable.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back to another segment of the Youth Roundtable. Today with me is Honorable Lenia of Charity of Makerere University Business School, also the Vice President of the Guild. And also we have my brother and counsel, Honorable Mr. Ginyera. Yeah, soon to be honorable, hopefully. Joining us with very good insights, and we had a very enriching first discussion around the current affairs of security, issues around the motivation behind the assassinations, but also the follow-up by police and whether they have the capacity. This session, we will be focusing on the general political culture. And I think I'll start with you before moving to my sister here. We have seen the assassinations that happen, notwithstanding, as lawyers love to say. it's not a case in isolation. There have been accusations of a variety of different forms of torture and breach of some of the non-derogable rights, which in law we'll have to call inherently given to us. So, what are your reflections when you see an assassination, but also some of these wider issues? What are your reflections on Uganda's political culture and where we are going?
And where we're heading?
Yeah.
I think one of my key reflections is that seemingly society is beginning to get used, which is a problem on my part. Because right now, the question is, who is next? And that's a bad question, actually, because we're all waiting for who is next. And I think that's terrible on our part, or on the part of the government, that you're only waiting for the next person who will be a victim of this vice that has eroded our society. And Ola, I want us to also interrogate, because I just thought of something.
Yeah.
The guns that were used to maybe assassinate Katumba, where did those guns go? The guns are still there, actually. I don't know whether there's one put in use right now. Even the guns that were used on Jaja Chuli, they're also still in society. They're with us. So, and like you noted, that there's a general trend of violence. There's a lot of high-handedness on the side of our security forces. I'm a student of Makere, and I've not yet experienced personally on my part, but I have colleagues who have experienced the wrath of these security agencies. Colleagues who have lost their hands, because there's a colleague, he was in Lumumba, they shot a canister in his room, and when he tried to throw it back, he lost his hand. And there are very many stories like that. You've had the colleagues in our elections here, no more elections. And I don't know whether you're a subscribed member to Convocation, but you saw what happened in the Makere Convocation election.
Yeah.
The army, the police, I think all security agencies were there. So there's a general trend of violence. But needless to say, like we all know, the current government, the establishment that we all treasure, was brought about by I think violence. Should I say violence or diplomacy?
By the sword.
By the sword. And it will live by,
by the sword.
by the sword. So, speaking from history, I think it's only just to say that maybe, like you say, you noted in our first segment, that when the going gets bad, you get back to your default settings, which may be that, actually, because we all know the government is a product, a genuine product. And like some historians note, our current president, I think when he was still at the University of Dar es Salaam, one of his key areas of the things that he treasured most was the art of violence in its every sense. And they say that was his, I don't know, was it his dissertation in one of his pieces at campus? So you can see that from then up until now, there's really, it's something that is happening at its stages, but it's unfolding in that very sense. I was talking with a colleague of mine, we were having a late night chat, and he told me, as young people were asleep, man. As a young person, why should you sleep? So he told me, at our age, at 22, 23, our good president was smuggling guns from Mozambique. That's what he told me. I don't know that was supposed to motivate me, but there's really, I just wanted to put that in context in relation to what happened in the 1980s when the NRA was coming up. It's not something new. Violence is happening each and every day. So these assassinations, I think, are the pitching points. This is the maximum, the assassination. But there are those small pockets of violence that are happening every day. The way security forces handle people while arresting them.
Exactly. That's too
bad. Lenina here is a good friend to Margaret Natavi. And these students were refused to hold a press conference in Makere University. So they resorted to going to a hotel that is located outside campus. Then security forces came. The DPC of Wandegea came, got them, and the very terrible pictures that were coming from that place. Very, very terrible pictures. So there's that general trend of violence. And it doesn't speak to Ugandanness, really, because as Uganda were notably among the most peaceful countries, but what these security forces are trying to exhibit And it goes back to the over-militarization of everything. Even in normal elections in Makere, we're electing a guild president of Makere. I know Makere's historical evolution gives it, because it's highly contentious, and it's a hotspot, given that it has over 40,000 young people crowded in those 3 acres at the hill. Maybe the state has interest in that, but still the way you handle these students, really pouring battalions of, even right now the elections are online, but even for an online election, because I was party to those elections and I was eagerly waiting outside of CTF, waiting for the declaration of results, but you could see trucks of police moving the whole day. Once they cite, there's a presumption of innocence, but these days there's a presumption of guilt. So when they see some rowdy nature in you, immediately you're ganged up and taken. And the way they handle colleagues is not good.
Very bad.
The current state of the country right now, there's an inherent way of violence that is cropping up, maybe from the security forces side, and I don't think that is good. It doesn't speak to us, and it's not us. The president has oftenly distanced himself from torture. Very much says that the government doesn't believe in torture, we believe in dialogue. But the problem with that is that if you say you don't believe in that, but still people do it openly and we don't see any retribution on their part, we begin to believe that this and this is that. And my worst fear, like you noted, I fear to presume that since the president is distancing himself, then there's an other independent force that is perpetrating these things. I think that could be the worst thing that would happen to our country. I would be safer to know that the president is the one that is engineering this violence, but knowing that there may be a third party that is having all these guns and having all this power, then that is one thing to fear.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to, like you're trying to say, it speaks to the whole idea of state building, the core of which is monopolization of violence, and then having the capacity for violence but not using it. That is the strength of the good state. And also, I found it interesting when you spoke of this government came by the sword, because I think in law school you study the constitution, and the government is actually us, and like you said, the people, we are the people, and that is the government. There's a difference between the government and the state and the regime.
True.
Yeah, so it speaks to a demoralization, I think, when you allude to the state as the government or the regime as the government. Yeah, but that's an interesting submission. And maybe while Guinera speaks on these issues very, very insightfully, you actually have, being a member of NUP, you have the unique opportunity to give us more of a biographic experience. Do you feel safe together with your colleagues to participate in these political spaces, especially with dissenting voices like yours?
Honestly, I don't feel safe, you know. We're in a country where opposition is inevitable. I mean, a country without opposition is not, the government will not, you know, opposition needs to be there, like we need to be there. But again, opposition, we need safe space for it, you know. Right now, unfortunately, every time you're termed as NUP, you either know you're going to die or you're not safe. Or some of us, that's how our parents think, you know, and their parents are like, please don't die. How dare you? Like you're not supposed to be opposition. But I mean, opposition is supposed to be there in the what? In the country, you know. I was there for the convocation and I exactly saw what happened. I was there for the whole process from morning up to evening. And it is very unfortunate that these security forces, instead of inserting, you know, once something has happened, it's so sad that they're inflicting pain on their own citizens. Some of these people are actually very innocent people, but the way you come and you treat them, the way you come and you carry them about, I think that is very wrong. And this needs to reach the government. It has to stop. That is not how you're supposed to treat citizens in your own country. In fact, it is very funny how they leave very urgent matters of somebody who has been maybe killed, or that is what you're supposed to be investigating at the moment to make sure that people are safe. But you're coming into carry this innocent person and you're treating them. It is very okay to carry somebody who is violent, but the way you treat them, yes, you're supposed to come and make sure that people are secure and people are safe, but the way you treat your own citizens, you make some of us feel like we are not part of the country. You make some of us feel like we're not supposed to be in the what? In the country. Yes, we might be opposing the government, but I believe that we do have rights in the country because we are what? We are citizens.
You're also the government.
Yes, we are also the government.
Yeah.
And it is so sad that I've seen people being treated in a very, very rough way by security forces. And I think we've been complaining about this like for forever. And it is very sad that the people who are supposed to be protecting us are the people that we are much more afraid of. I think when something bad happens in a society, we're supposed to be excited that police is coming or UPDF is coming. But it's unfortunate that we get very worried when UPDF is coming because we know they are coming to do what? To inflict pain on us. Any person who is having a peaceful demonstration without violence, I do not expect police to come and carry them as though something had already what? Happened. Or maybe they stipulate that something is going to happen in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why they do come through. But if anyone has not exhibited any form of violence, then I do not think you have a right to actually, treat them the way we've seen people being treated in the country. And that is really, really very, that is very bad. That is why I decide to come up and oppose this. Yes, it's unfortunate that most of the national unity platform has been tainted as violent, or has been tainted as people who are extremely radical, or we are aggressive. At times I do not blame these people for being aggressive. I do not blame someone who picks up a stone and stones the police, because I mean, you must have provoked somebody. You do not just come up and treat people like that, So I think it needs to go back to the security forces. They need to go back and be trained, right? So if you're to look at a girl like me, yes, I believe in the ideologies of National Unity Platform, but I don't think I'm violent. These are leaders who have come up, and they are very good leaders in society. And for any country to keep running, opposition is a must. You can't stop it, For any government to keep running efficiently, we all know that so well. Opposition has to be there. But again, these are people in the country that need to be treated so well. So I think this needs to be improved. I'm a person of National Unity Platform, but every time we are scared, we're checking through our phones. We know we are all over Twitter. Right now you check through and we are worried that somebody might be looking for us already.
Have you faced such a threat personally?
Personally, not really. I haven't. Maybe we are yet to, because we are in the political space, and this is not where we are stopping. We keep going. We're keeping. We keep going. So definitely, I'm sure maybe in the near future it will happen, because we've seen leaders who have gone through that a lot. People are being followed up. Somebody is not secure. You're a leader in the country, but you find people are running out of their own country and they're not willing to stay because of the insecurity around them. But the question is, who is causing this insecurity around them? So that is what we need to improve on as a country.
Thank you very much. And it reminds me of someone who said opposition is a service to the sitting government. And I think it was the UK government under Tony Blair that advised his colleagues that I think we first need to go into opposition as the Labour Party and let Gordon Brown and the Conservatives take over. This is a very idealist, but it gives a reflection on what she was trying to say. Maybe just before we go to ways forward, especially as young people, there's a nexus that we want to touch on a bit. That is the inflow, and Mr. Ginyara George will help me address this. We have guns within, like you said, the same guns that shot Mr. Ichuli are still within. Where do these guns come from? Why are these guns within the citizenry where they shouldn't be? And could you kindly shed a light for our viewers on that?
Excuse me. I think Ola, that's a great point in what we're speaking of. As I earlier noted in our preliminary statements.
Yeah.
Uganda is doesn't act in a vacuum.
Yeah.
It's not, we're part of this whole global village, a wide global village. And as society continues to develop, the distances from UK to Uganda, these things are made very shorter and shorter and shorter. So whatever is the other side, inadvertently, or eventually comes back to this side. And what we're experiencing right now, the insecurity that we're experiencing right now, could be as a result of some of the insecurity that is happening outside our borders. I don't know whether you're privy to the Arab Spring that took over the whole of North Africa. It's just started in one state, spread around to the Middle East, wherever, to all Arabian countries.
Yeah.
So whatever happens outside there comes back this side. When we're experiencing those bombings in Kampala, Komamboga, and the last one here in Parliament, the investigations clearly showed, the police told us that these were ADF personnel who were bombing, who were taking part, organizing these bombings in Kampala.
Yeah.
And we all know where the ADF emanates from. It's currently operating in the DRC.
Yeah.
And like many have noted, there are very many porous borders in Uganda. One thing I know for sure is that the guns that are used in our country, these very sophisticated weapons, like the ones that were used in Kawesi's murder, are not manufactured in our country. So they must come from somewhere. And I don't think they come from the recognized means, the same way maybe Prestige Marjorie would have come from Kenya.
Yeah.
It's not the same way these guns come. So I know there's an inflow of those guns in our country. Today I was reading an article, it was posted by Al Jazeera, and they were trying to create a nexus between what is happening in Sudan and what may happen in Ethiopia and Eritrea. Since time immemorial, whatever would happen in Ethiopia had an effect on what would happen on Eritrea and on Sudan. In the Tigray conflict, the Eritrean army was in Ethiopia fighting on the side of the government in retaliation to the Tigrayan forces. So you have a scenario whether these are three countries, all in the Horn of Africa, but violence in one state can lead to violence in the other state. Why I bring up that is because our neighboring country here, the DRC, has been experiencing turmoil since time immemorial, I think from independence. So the violence there, I believe, given our current security state, cannot be underlooked and say that whatever is happening there cannot be intertwined or cannot be connected to what is happening in Uganda. Very many bombings, even when Muslim clerics were being killed, it was all pinned to the ADF. All the recent murders were all pinned to the ADF. And the problem is, I remember the late Lokesh's famous statement, because all these suspects that were gotten in Katumba's murder, all of them, not taken to court, but most of them were being killed at wherever they were gotten from. And whenever I was giving those regular press briefings, we would say that they were put out of action. I think it was the first time I'd heard of that. The combatants were put out of what? Action. So the violence that is happening globally, there's a lot of violence. In Haiti, since the assassination of Jovenel Moïse, I don't know whether you put interest in that. The president was assassinated. And since then, there's been a high level of gun violence to the extent that over 520 people have been killed from January to March. That's from just this year in 2023.
It's a very small island.
Very small island. Over 277 people have been kidnapped in just that small island. No, I don't think even it's half the population of Uganda. And I think key to the problems of Uganda right now is that development comes with its costs. And we must appreciate that. There are side effects of, the rose is very beautiful, but it also comes with horns. So development, the increase in population, the increase in poverty levels are also contributing, apart from those global insecurities that are happening. All of these are compounding factors, and they all lead to one thing, and that is insecurity. These developed countries, I think, I don't know how, I think I should interrogate further on my part, how the Scandinavian countries have been able to handle this issue of security. Because I remember in Denmark, there was a whole breaking news when someone stabbed there was a stabbing in Denmark, and that's something that is unheard of.
Yeah.
So imagine someone shooting a person in Denmark. Those are things that are, but when you look at the USA, the gun violence every day, 27 people are killed in one go in a day, and that is only one state. Look, our neighbor here, South Africa, it's seen as the most developed country in Africa, but you know what is going on right now. Very many excepts of gun violence, and they're also trying to find a way of mitigating it through regulating guns ownership, but almost everyone in South Africa now has a
gun.
But even them, with all those stringent measures and tough measures on guns, people are finding a way of getting guns from Zimbabwe into South Africa. So you had those unregulated guns in, and those are maybe the ones that are causing havoc. So there's we are experiencing this partly because of what is happening globally.
Yeah.
Exactly. Even in Uganda, people do own guns. I don't know. There is. I had a discussion with a friend, and she told me there's a system where people own guns in Uganda, but they pay for them. So
you're entitled.
You're entitled. Actually, it's like a monthly payment. Something of you have to give. Is it a subscription? I'm forgetting the way she called it. It was like 20 million per month, and you own your gun. I'll give you a scenario. Recently, on one of our rallies, we had, as you're in a rally, so there is this car that comes up. Just some guy with a very nice. I'm not so good at cars. I do not know cars, but it was a very, very, a very posh car, I would call it. So one of our students taps on this guy's car. You people doesn't. This guy park. He parks and he tells the guy. He tells this boy, how dare you touch my car like that, I'm going to shoot you. And the guy is pulling out a gun, like he had it, we could all see it. So we had to rush back and, try to calm him down, we are sorry, we apologize. So you can imagine. And this guy was not in his right state of mind. He seemed he must have had a bit of liquor, and he was not okay. He was not fine. So you can see
drunk with power.
Drunk with power, because I do not know how someone is snaps off that easily because somebody has just tapped on your car, and you're threatening to pull out a gun to shoot actually a student, and so it happened, and I was startled. I looked and I'm like, this is not happening in our own country. People are having guns all over. And he's not the first one. In bars, you find people with guns. And they're entitled. Somebody tells you, I have a receipt for my what? For my gun.
Yeah, I think you're generally entitled to a gun. And much more, even a convoy. But you obviously have to go through the state provides you some of those things. But I do get the point around, the having weapons in the citizenry.
Yeah.
And I think he gave a very beautiful analogy as well about places like the US, South Africa. And I think it's a good lesson to learn once again, because some of these states have a strong history of oppression. These are forces of redistribution mixing with militarization. And we see some of those things in our country, and we need to be alive. So thank you very much. Just as an outro, obviously everyone can diagnose problems, but takes leaders like us to guide the thoughts of the viewers, the young people, and to even give a way forward. So just in conclusively, but also in general, what do you think should be done about the state of security in Uganda?
Okay.
Speaking to the young people.
Yes. Firstly, Ola, to the young people, everybody needs to know that it is a personal responsibility. Your security should be your personal responsibility. I remember back then when we used to go to school, our parents would tell us, take care of this, make sure it's this, maybe do not move at late hours of the night. So let it be the first things first. Everybody needs to be security conscious. I know myself, most of the times when I'm moving alone, I do not know, maybe when it's late, I'm usually extremely security conscious. I know what I'm carrying, and then you look around you. If you're not if you're sensing something that is not right, I mean, you should start working on your security right away. So before you begin calling out the government to protect you, number one is everybody should be security conscious. And then to me, again, I think the government has a lot to do when it comes to security. These security forces need to be properly funded to be able to carry out security in these different areas. If they're saying they're bringing out measures of cameras, and then I think that needs to be implemented, and people need to be consistent. We do not only need to come up and bring out all these brilliant ideas of having the country secure only when something critical has taken place, you know. That is very wrong. So I think we need to benchmark from other countries and see how best security can be taken on in the country. And lastly, security forces need to stop inflicting pain on their own people. You know, we need to, this really, Ola will emphasize that so much. This really needs to stop. People are feeling insecure in their own countries, you know. That is why you find people are doing what? That's why you find people are flying out, right? So people need to be it really needs to stop. Instead of deploying 100 UPDF people in a university, why can't you do that on roads where we know accidents are happening all the time? You know, why can't you do that on in places where we know these are very unsafe places? You know, other than deploying over 100 security personnel in an institution, you know, because you feel that students are unruly, you bringing tear gas all over the place, and sometimes people are even having real guns with real bullets ready to shoot and these are citizens in the country, you know. That equally needs to do what? That equally needs to stop. But other than that, it has to start with our own personal security. Then security forces, how they run things in the country, equally needs to be improved. You know, they need to see what they are not doing right, because it is very important. Maybe once they find out what they are not doing right or what they need, then that needs to be implemented as soon as possible. It doesn't have to take time. The action needs to be what? Needs to be carried out before the talking is what? Is done. So yes, that is it.
Yeah, thank you very much. And in a great movie called The Great Debaters, I don't know if you guys have watched it. A small school called Wiley College debated Harvard University, and the topic was justification of civil disobedience. Many times we see students, but also opposition, engaging in acts, and we need to discuss this because it's the basic defense of the government that the opposition or the students are engaging in civic disobedience.
Yes.
And it's something that is subversive per se and needs to be dealt with. It's a security issue. On the other side of the debate is the notion that a wrong law cannot be, you cannot, it's immoral to follow the wrong law or the wrong situation or the wrong, you cannot be right in a wrong place. And that is mostly coming from so they don't see the activities as civic disobedience, but they see it as activism or trying to push. Is that, what do you have to say about that conundrum? The police saying you guys are subversive, you're causing insecurity, but at the same time you feeling that because a lot of young people have this question, and a lot of young people watching you are wondering whether there's space for them in a place like Noop. They have issues, but they might be afraid to engage.
What form of insecurity are the young people causing? Because I do not see a peaceful demonstration.
For example, riots in Makerere.
Let me give maybe the riots in Makerere.
Yeah.
Yes, true. If students came up today and maybe they rioted over something they felt like they're obliged to or they need to be attended to, I do not see any reason why police needs to come up and shoot at a student. You know, I feel like they need to come up with measures of stopping this other than leading to killing of someone, because we've had students who have died in the cause. We've had students who have lost arms in the cause. So are we very certain that that is the best measure on how to stop any of these riots? Are we very sure that that is the best measure of because at the end of the day, you also know that you're killing a citizen in the country. At the end of the day, you also know that no, at some point, the students feel like what they're doing is what is right. And you will also note that the security people equally will feel like what they're doing is what is the right thing at that time, because I mean that is how they are what? That is how they are trained to that is what they are trained to what? To do. If a student doesn't listen, shoot at him. But to me, I feel like is that really the right way to go? I feel like they can come up with some other measures to stop this, you know, to reduce this, to reduce the insecurity, to reduce the rioting, because students can get overly radical and extremely violent. True, but it is also equally very wrong for you to come up and put extreme violent measures on somebody who is a citizen in that country, you know, and trying to put out something that they feel they are what? They're obliged to, or it's a right to them.
Yeah. Mr. Gidura, is a peaceful protest possible? We recently saw the doctors,
on the internet,
which for me, I think most people in the country will agree that this is a justified, you know, query into the way things are run. But we still saw some of these scenes. Is a peaceful middle ground possible between, for example, the forces and the young people?
I've seen it possible sometimes. I don't know how it was. I remember during the time of stop air cop, those who were saying stop air cop. Then when those who were saying don't stop, they successfully held a peaceful protest. Those who were saying don't stop.
It's possible.
So it shows that there's also the way the security, because even the security forces were the ones escorting them, they escorted them to the offices.
I think they were even given sodas.
They were given lunch, then they were taken to Kololo. So I think the security forces are also biased on the way they handle these things. But you know, this I'm a student of law, so I would like to make reference to the law that the Constitution provides in the Bill of Rights, Chapter 4, that the Constitution provides for all these rights: the right to expression, movement, the right to association, and in every sense, I don't know what the state fears most about this peaceful protest, really. These are things that have been recognized internationally, really. You have students peacefully, but the way they are handled violently. I remember during one of our talks with the administration on how the elections will be handled, the administration said that all elections, inclusive of campaigns, shall be online. So one student stood up and noted that if I organize a physical campaign, will the police also arrest me virtually? So will the police proceed in an online manner? Will they arrest me via Zoom to make the election more online? But they should be really annexed. Some of these things should be left. I'm not in that position of power.
Yeah.
I want to presume that they do these things in our best interest, really. But the high-handedness of the state
is unnecessary.
Is really unnecessary. And at times, I would like to note that our Constitution provides that in the limitation of these constitutionally given rights, the state should use the less restrictive manner.
Yeah.
So if I'm rioting as a student peacefully, again, I shouldn't be shot at with bullets, yet I have really nothing. I only have placards. But the way these people are handled is as if they have pangas and what. I know all of you, I think it was a year back, the scenario was it in Indonesia, where fans were filled in a soccer pitch.
Yeah.
They started fighting, and the best way the police could handle it was shooting tear gas and bullets in the same crowd that was trying to move out, which led to the death of over 150 people.
Yeah, I remember.
So also the police should find mechanism of how to handle these things, really, in adapting to the current scenario that is there. You find people, over 100 students, crowded in a place in the main hall, and that same main hall, you're the one shooting canisters in that. I think that's not right.
Yeah. And what do you have to say about the state of the security going forward?
The state of the security going forward. I think I'll address the state, and like Charity has done, I'll also address our citizens as Ugandans. I don't know for the state. I don't know who I'll be talking to.
No, the state of security.
The state of security. Because there are very many parties to the state of security. Yeah. The security is contributed to by our government and by us ourselves as citizens. For the government, like I noted earlier, there are very many benchmarks. There are very many things that are happening, that are going on, that you could look at and say, in 5 years to come, we wouldn't want Uganda to be like this. So they must be able to do that.
Yeah.
I hope in every sense that these people have a plan for us. Whatever they do, like Barack Obama noted, is that the government, the current government in its entirety, borrowed the time that they have right now from the young people. So they are on our time. They may be playing with our future. I hope they are not. But they must do whatever it takes necessary to see to it that the security of this country improves. Because without security, nothing can move. It's a very big factor in everything, in economics, socially, and politically. The state must be secure. As a country as Uganda, one of our key resources is tourism. And without security, I think all that influx of those billions of dollars won't be coming through.
Yeah.
And for the citizens, I would like just to re-echo what Charity said. Everyone has a duty to play.
Yeah.
So I also have a duty to play. She also has, you also have. And everyone in Uganda has. All the 42 million people have a duty to play. And I would like to just encourage our citizens to also be at part with the situations that are going on right now.
Yeah.
First of all, they must appreciate what the government is trying to do. And after appreciating that, not to put the government on a comfortable bed, like Charity noted, this is their duty. It's not our duty. They took over power. They say they won the election in 2021. For the same reasons, I would like them to embrace that and promote and secure our future, like their mantra says. So, in a wrap-up, in a nutshell, everyone has a duty to play. I have, you have, the state has. And I pray we all play our duties because in the end, it's our Uganda.
Yeah.
God and my country.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Gimira and Honorable Lenya. It has been a very enriching discussion. As a moderator, you've been very disciplined guests, and kudos for that. Yes, and it's been also good learning for me and heartful messages, especially the fact that this is the future of young people like you and myself. So that has been a good learning. Unfortunately, we didn't have for our viewers the government perspective, but with young people, there's a saying that when you're in your 20s, if you're not a socialist, then you have no heart. And in your 30s, if you're not a capitalist, you have no brain. So it is not a mistake that young people like you appear to be opposing, because you want better and better for yourselves, but for the generation as a whole. So thank you very much for those insights. To our dear viewers, all that has had to be said has been said. It's been an insightful discussion. Follow us on Youth Roundtable on Twitter, but also on YouTube, and to catch up on the discussion. And thank you very much for being good viewers today, and we look forward to the next edition. With me, your host, Okot Ola.